everyone, I'm Tony Damian.
And I'm Andrew Rich, and welcome to the latest episode of Himalayan Bites.
We're joined today by Nicole Pedler, our partner.
Hello.
And Nicole has put together this year, for the 16th year, the Australian Public M&A Report. HSF looks at every takeover, every scheme. This is the first one of these, so we have more data than anyone else on this stuff. Nicole, tell us about the report. What can we look forward to in this year's edition?
It's a really exciting edition this year. Together with my co-authors, we've been through the 70 public M&A transactions that have happened in the last year. This is 25% more public M&A deals than we've had in the previous year, and it's a lot more than even the 5-year average. So there's been a lot of stuff happening.
So a strong year.
Strong year.
Nicole, it feels to me that there's been a lot more activity from foreign acquirers, whether that's in public or private M&A. What do the statistics show?
Andrew, that's really consistent with what we've seen in the statistics. So in the last year, for example, European bidders represented about 1 in 5 of the public M&A transactions. And when you look at the $1 billion plus deals, the mega deals, foreign bidders accounted for about 85% of them. In addition to European bidders, we also saw the Japanese bidders come through in force. In fact, a Japanese bidder was involved in the largest transaction for the year. And that's something that, for once, we can give ourselves a tick on the predictions from last year, because we did see that one coming.
And what about some of the things that these foreign bidders are bringing to our market? What are some of the more interesting structural features that you've seen over the course of the last financial year?
Yeah, so what we're seeing structurally is whether it's foreign bidders or Australian bidders, there's this really laser focus that's coming through. Maybe it's the uncertain economic times, maybe it's just a very disciplined approach, but we're really seeing deal structures become more complex and more targeted. And so examples of that involve either spinning off non-core assets or separating and breaking up businesses. Great examples that hit the front page in the last year were things like BHP's various proposals for Anglo. Yep. We've seen the way KKR is looking to acquire certain of Perpetual's business units and doing it by scheme. And other ones, for example, in the tech sector, with the way DataSite is taking over Ansarada but not acquiring certain non-core assets. Yeah,
very interesting. Again, consistent with what I've been seeing myself. What about sectors? We always get asked about sectors. What sectors were hot in FY24?
Well, we had the usual situation where we've got, energy and resources having a large amount of deals, 43% of deals in the public M&A space in the last year. But the real standout, value-wise, was the building and materials sector. We had the likes of Seven, Adbri, and others in that space, CSR, all being taken out, and a lot of them by foreign bidders as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. And speaking of foreign bidders, one question foreign bidders always ask, local ones as well, deal protection. Any trends there in FY24?
Tony, deal protection always important, and we saw some really strong trends in FY24. So 40% of deals involved some sort of pre-bid stake on announcement. And interestingly, most of those involved a straightforward direct shareholding by the bidder. The other form of deal protection we saw the most was a simple voting intention statement or voting agreement by a major shareholder. And so those are very kind of classic and simple approaches. What was really interesting about that, I guess, is that it's also tricky for a major shareholder or a bidder in that it doesn't give them a lot of flexibility. So one of the more targeted ways to get a level of pre-bid support is to get a call option over a portion of shares. And that has the benefit that if, for example, the bidder ends up deciding not to proceed with the transaction, it can walk away without having a stake in the company that it has to then find a way to sell. The flip side of not seeing too many of those is perhaps that the bidders in the last year had a huge amount of conviction. They were willing to go forward, grab a stake, and do what it could to make the transaction happen. And by and large, those transactions with pre-bid stakes were successful.
Well, the first 3 rules of M&A, public M&A, buy shares, buy shares, buy shares. Final question from us. Amazing data for FY24. What does that tell us about the things we might expect to see in FY25?
Tony and Andrew, I think my guess is probably as good as yours. But some of the things that sort of bubbled up through FY24 that maybe we might see flow into FY25, from a bidder perspective, I think with things being tricky in economic conditions, we might see corporates continue to do things like assess their strategy, look at what's core and non-core, which might lead to more spin-offs, both private and public, and perhaps more demergers. When we look at private capital, they were perhaps slightly restrained in the last year, perhaps owing to, again, high interest rates, difficult uncertainties in economic conditions. So they've certainly still got the capital there, so we might see a wave of that deployed. And from an investor and shareholder perspective, with so many companies being taken off the exchange in the last few years and the muted IPO environment looking to continue, we think we might see some real battles on our hands. So what that might look like is bidders needing to use more dual scheme and takeover type mechanics to encourage shareholders to accept, and shareholders putting up a really good fight.
I wouldn't want to bet against any of those predictions. Great report. Congratulations, Nicole and team.
Well, that brings to a close another episode of Himalayan Bites. We very much look forward to your company on the next episode.
Hello, everyone. I'm
No.
Tony.
I was looking down.
Oh, okay.
Try and encourage major shareholders to accept into deals.
We can't.
He'll be able to with magic. Okay.